Hello and welcome to another video on the Grimwood Watch Modern channel, and today we have a shootout between two Chinese GMT watches. The first one being the new Pagani Design 1662, which is going up against the Parnis GMT. Now the Parnis has been on the scene for many years now, however the Pagani is a new contender. So let's see how both of these compare specs wise and then get into the nitty gritty of how they look and how they differ. Also, don't forget, like and subscribe if you do like this video. So without further ado, let's dive in. So let's start off with the Parnis specs. So case diameter is 40mm, lug to lug is 57.5mm, overall thickness is 13mm, lug width is 20mm. The movement we've got in here is an automatic DG3804 GMT. We have a 120 click unidirectional bezel with a ceramic insert. The case material is 316L stainless steel. We have a water resistance of 30 meters, which in my mind is a bit low. We have a stainless steel clasp with a deployment on it. Glass is sapphire. The overall weight on the wrist is around about 150 grams. That's on this bracelet, and it costs in between 61 to 65 pounds as of making this video. So let's move on to the Pagani specs. Specs wise, the Pagani basically shares a lot of similarities with the Parnis. The case diameter is 40mm, lug to lug is 57.5mm, thickness is 13.5mm, and the lug width is 20mm. The movement in this is a automatic DG5833 GMT. We have a unidirectional 60 click bezel with, it's said to be a ceramic insert, but I'm questioning it more, thinking it's a metal insert. We have a 316L stainless steel case, water resistance of 100 meters. We have a stainless steel clasp with obviously a deployment on as well. Sapphire crystal. This watch comes in at 156 grams in weight and it costs around £78. So with the specifications out the way, I'm going to do a slight disclaimer. The Parnis I've had for 3 years now, and I've used it as a daily beater. It's been faultless throughout, but it does mean there's a few scratches and a few nicks here and there, so you will have to excuse them. The Pagani, on the other hand, I have just had on the wrist a week. This is a brand new watch, so this one will look a lot less beaten up with this, but I'm not going to take that into account on both these watches. So the way I'm going to do this test is I'm going to go through a number of categories, and whichever one of these two wins that category will get the point, and we'll see how it tallies up at the end. So with all that out of the way, let's crack on. So the first category is going to be cases and sizing. Well, the sizing between both of these is pretty much identical. The only difference I found was 0.5 mm added onto the thickness of the Pagani Design at 13.5mm. However, looking at both watches, my eyes do seem to see the Pagani as a slightly bulkier watch, and I think the reason for this is because the Pagani case has slightly more aggressive chamfers all over it, making it look like a bigger, chunkier case. However, I have took some measurements on both these watches, and it does seem like the Parnis also has slightly thinner lugs, which then gives the illusion that the Parnis is actually a thinner case. The 1662 also has a lovely display back in the back with a nicely designed rotor, as you can see there, whereas the Parnis just has a very sterile kind of Rolex inspired one. Between the two watches though, who comes out on top in this category in my mind? It's got to be the Parnis. I do like the slightly bulkier look, and that case back is a winner for me. The next category, bezels. The bezels between both these watches are chalk and cheese. Firstly, both are using unidirectional diving bezels from their other watches in the Pagani and Parnis ranges. Being GMT watches, they really should have a bi-directional, but we have all come accustomed to this little quirk in the Chinese GMT market. The Parnis has 120 click, which has a great action. It's one of the best ones in my collection actually. Nice and smooth, hardly any bounce back. It is absolutely superb. The Pagani, on the other hand, I was expecting more. I was expecting it to be more like the 1651 Yachtmaster model, which had a lovely action. However, this does disappoint. The bezel I can move backwards and forwards, it's got a lot of sideways movement, it's got a lot of bounce back on it, and it just doesn't seem as responsive and smooth as the other Pagani Design I reviewed. It's a bit of a letdown. The inserts are the same between them, however. Both are meant to be ceramic, however I do question the Pagani's cork bezel being this material. I personally want to say it's a type of metal. I have found the same insert on Aliexpress advertised as titanium, however how true that is I do not know. This one has to go to the Parnis though, because that action is absolutely superb, so 1 point to the Parnis. Next, the dials. Now, firstly, the Pagani Design obviously has some writing on it, whereas the Parnis is a sterile dial. So I'm not going to bring any of the writing into this part of the competition. So I'm just going to look at the dials for colour, the indices, and the way they've been applied. And in all honesty, the Pagani Design does seem to be a bit more of a rounded dial. The indices look a bit more polished, they look a bit better applied, the hands look better as well. As we can see also on the Parnis, there's also like specks of dust every so often, such as at the 7 o'clock there, so it's not 100% with the Parnis, but I definitely think the Pagani Design dial does win out with this one, so another point to the Pagani Design. So the lume on both these watches is poor, but the Pagani Design does seem to last a tad bit longer than the Parnis, so for this round the Pagani Design gets another point. Next, movements. Now both watches use DG movements. The Parnis uses a DG 3804 and the Pagani Design a DG 5536 GMT. Specs on both movements are a bit sketchy. I know both are beaten at 21,600 beats per hour. Both have GMT functions obviously. Now I have tested the power reserve myself on both of these. The Parnis comes in at 38 hours and the Pagani Design comes in at 41 hours. However, the Parnis has an error of around about 6 seconds a day. The Pagani Design has an error of around about plus 12 seconds a day. One big difference between them though, the Pagani Design movement is hackable, whereas the Parnis is not. Also the winding on the Pagani is a lot nicer due to not being directly attached to the rotor. When you wind the Parnis up, you feel like you're winding up a vibrator because it just shakes all over the place because the rotor spins with the actual screwing of the crown. For this one, I'm going to have to give the point yet again to the Pagani Design. Next up, water resistance. This is a simple one, isn't it? The Parnis is 30 metres, the Pagani Design is 100 metres. However, it's not that simple overall because I have tested both these watches up to 60 metres and both held up alright, which does show you can't judge a watch's water resistance off the specifications they provide. But I can tell you now the Parnis does have a less complex seal arrangement compared to the Pagani Design, and the Pagani Design is the one that I feel more comfortable with getting wet out of the box, so that yet again is another point to the Pagani Design. Now let's have a look at the bracelets, and this one's a harder one. I do normally like Pagani Design style of bracelet, but I feel like I've got a bit of a dud with this watch. The clasp is very hard to open, the dive extension is basically stuck solid in there, and the end links do not marry up to the case whatsoever. As you can see, there's a big gap that side, there's also a big gap at the other side. It would have been a winner if it was exactly the same as the 1651 Pagani Design that I reviewed a few months ago. The Parnis bracelet though is nice, the clasp is easy to use, the dive extension pops out with no issue whatsoever. Over the years, don't get me wrong, it does jangle a bit because it has got looser over that time, but it really isn't that bad. And the newer Parnises you can also get with a Jubilee style bracelet, which looks absolutely awesome. Actually, I would like one of them. So in this category, I've got to say the Parnis does win over the Pagani Design, so a point to the Parnis. Next up, the crystals, and in all honesty it's a very close met case because both of them are sapphire, both of them have cyclopses, so really they're pretty even on the playing field until you look at the cyclops. As we can see, the Pagani Design cyclops magnifies that date window quite nicely, whereas the Parnis just doesn't have as much magnification as I would like. So yet again, the point goes to the Pagani Design. Next one is the biggie, the price. Now, this is a tough one because the real question is the Pagani Design really £20 more of a watch than the Parnis? So that's around about 33%. And in all honesty, I can say no. The Parnis kind of offers the same that the Pagani Design does in colourways. I could get a cork bezel Parnis with obviously Parnis written on it. I can also get a few other bracelet options such as the Jubilee if I wanted to. And if I was going to go away from my normal sellers on Aliexpress, I could even pick the Parnis up for around about £55. So it then makes it even more of a better deal. So overall, I'm going to give this point to the Parnis just because to pick up a GMT for 60 quid is a good steal, especially an automatic. So that's all the categories out the way with, and we have a 7 for the Pagani Design and a 3 for the Parnis. So overall, the Pagani Design wins out. But I can't leave it there. I don't know why, but it just doesn't seem like it's as clear cut as that. So what are my final thoughts on both these watches and which one does actually come out on top of my mind? Well, the main point on the Pagani Design which I like is that DG5833 movement. It does feel a lot more refined than the Parnis DG3804. So that is one up for the Pagani Design, but the cost of the Parnis cannot be ignored. For the package you're getting, it is very, very good at around about 30% lower cost than the actual Pagani Design, if not more if you find some good deals out there. And the bezel action is absolutely spot on with the Parnis. It's one of the best bezel actions I have got. I also know over the 3 years that I've had the Parnis, it has never missed a beat once, and I've put this through the ringer quite a lot of times and it's been absolutely superb. However, I have to go with the one that I feel just kind of wins it for me, and it has to be the new boy on the block, the Pagani Design 1662. But I will say, if I had the option between this GMT variant, the 1662, or the Yachtmaster Homage, the PD1652, I would go with the Yachtmaster Homage every day of the week. And if you haven't seen that review, please look back. So please put in the comments, do you think I have picked the right watch? Do you think the Pagani Design 1662 is the right one? Or do you think the Parnis is the one that should have won and come out on top? If you have liked this video, please subscribe, press that bell button for future notifications on videos, and as always, keep safe and I will see you soon.